Dr. Nardi here, back with a brand new video. And in this video, I want to talk about investing. I am not going to talk about which stocks you should invest in, or if you should invest in index funds or mutual funds, or spend all your money on Nvidia. Don't do that. But I do want to talk about the psychology of investing. And I think I'm going to make this a series. And the first video I want to talk about is risk perception. How do we perceive risk, especially when it comes to investing? Think about it. When the stock market goes down, people panic and they sell off. When stocks are high, everybody buys. So what's going on inside the minds of these investors? Stay tuned and we'll find out together. Consider this for a moment. Let's say I want you to wager on a coin toss. Heads, you win $20. Tails, you lose $20. Would you take that bet? But what if I change the bet and say, you know what? You won $100 earlier. Now would you take that gamble? Did your answer change after finding out that you won earlier? What if you had lost $20 earlier? Would you take that gamble? Would that make any difference to you? Many people will take the gamble in one situation, but not in another. The odds of winning the $20 does not change in different scenarios. So the expected value of the gamble remains the same. Neither the risk nor the reward of the gamble changes between situations. Therefore, people's reaction to risk must change. People's perceptions of risk actually does appear to vary. And one important factor is evaluating the current risky decision in relation to past outcomes. People are willing to take more risk after earning gains and less risk after losing. There's a famous researcher that took, two researchers that took 95 undergraduate economic students, and they gave them a series of two-step gambles using real money. In the first step, the money was either given to or taken away from the student. In the second step, the student was asked whether he or she wished to take the gamble presented. Their findings suggested a house money effect, or a risk aversion, or a snakebite effect, and trying to break even effect. And I'm going to talk about all those today, but let's start off with the house money effect. I'm going to go over what it's about and provide you a brief example. So what is the house money effect? So after people have experienced a gain or profit, they're willing to take on more risk. Gamblers refer to this feeling as playing with the house's money. After winning a big sum, amateur gamblers do not fully consider the new money as their own. Are you willing to take more risk with your opponent's money or your own money? Because gamblers don't fully integrate their winnings with their own money, they act as if they're betting with the casino's money. So, for example, you have just won $15. Now you're faced with the opportunity to bet $4.50 on a coin toss. Do you place that bet? 77% of economic students place the bet after just receiving their windfall of $15. Most students were willing to take the risk. On the other hand, when students were asked to place a bet on a coin toss without receiving $15, only 41% chose to gamble. Students are more willing to take a financial risk after a windfall profit, even when not ordinarily inclined to do so, to take that risk. Now let's talk about snakebite or risk aversion. After experiencing a financial loss, people become less willing to take a risk. When you're faced with a gamble after already losing money, people generally choose to decline the gamble. Again, with college students who initially lost $7.50 were then asked to wager $2.25 on a coin flip. This time, the majority, about 60%, decided not to gamble. They declined to gamble. After losing the initial money, the students might have felt a snake bite. What do we mean by that? Well, snakes do not often bite people, but when they do, people become more cautious. Likewise, after being unlucky enough to lose money, People often feel that they will continue to be unlucky, therefore they avoid risk. Now let's bring it back to the stock market. The stock market periodically drops in value. Sometimes it's quite dramatic. We call it a crash. You might see it on TV. And what do investors do? Many investors simply ride it out. They sit through the decline and wait for the subsequent rebound. Other investors examine which stock may have become bargains and buy them. A small portion gets snake bit. That is, they freak out and they panic sell their stock holdings. One study of almost 300,000 households found that about 9% of them engaged in panic selling at least once over a 13-year period. There are some ramifications for freaking out. For example, more than 58.5% of panic sellers re-enter the market within half a year. The median panic seller earns a 0 to negative return after panicking. Investors over 45 are most likely to panic sell. Married investors are often more likely to freak out as well. And there's also a percentage of investors who panic sell. They never return to reinvest in risky assets. So again, you do not want to panic sell. You do not want to be snake bit. You want to ride out the fluctuations in the market. There's an important and powerful exception to the risk aversion response to a loss. Now, people often jump at a chance to recoup their losses. In fact, a majority of students were willing to accept a double or nothing toss of a coin, even when they were told the coin toss was not fair. In other words, students were willing to take a risk even though they knew they had less than a 50% chance of winning. The need to break even appears to be stronger than the snakebite effect. Another example of this break-even effect can be seen at a racetrack. After a day of betting on horses and losing money, gamblers are more likely to bet on the long shots. Odds of like 15 to 1. That means if they bet $2, then they could win 30 if a horse wins. Of course, horses with an odds of 15 to 1 are unlikely to win. The proportion of money bet on a long shot is greater towards the end of a race day than the beginning. It appears that gamblers are less likely to make that risk early on in the day. However, those gamblers who have won money, the house money effect, or lost money, the break-even effect, during the day are more likely to take this kind of risk. Winners take this risk because they feel as though they're playing with the house's money. Losers like the opportunity to break even without risking too much more. People without significant gains or losses prefer not to take any risk. So what's the effect on investors? The house money effect predicts investors are more likely to purchase risky stocks after closing out a successful position. In other words, after locking in a gain by selling stock for profit, investors are more likely to buy higher risky stocks. Now, there's been a lot of research on this. There's a research study that looked at households in Sweden, and they had data on both real estate and stock holdings. They found that there's an increase in capital gains 1 year led to higher amount of risk taking in the following year, which is consistent with the house money effect. Losses lead to a decrease in risk taking, a snakebite reaction. The research that were found in some of these studies hold for people in different wealth classes as well, so it's not just SES, and it holds for both real estate and stock market gains. The snake bite effect can affect investors in other ways too. New or conservative investors might decide to give the stock market a try. Adding some stocks to a portfolio gives the long-term investor a better diversification and higher expected returns. However, if these stocks quickly decline in price, the first-time stock investor might feel a snake bite. Consider it like a young investor who began buying stocks in a biotech company for about $30 a share. 3 days later, the stock price drops to $28, and the investor panicked and sold off the stocks. Later, the stocks went up to $75, but he or she was so afraid to get back into the market that they did not want to take any more risk. The risk aversion is not constant. It varies over time, and it depends on the recent return path. Even financial professionals exhibit a varying aversion to risk. For example, a group of economists tested 162 financial professionals in Sweden after priming them with a boom or bust scenario. They then used an experimental design in which traders could either earn real money, so half of the subjects were primed with a bust scenario. That is, they were shown graphs in which their stock market had recently declined. The other halves were primed with a bull market scenario. The bust prime subjects showed much lower allocations to stocks than to the bull prime subjects. Fear increased risk aversion. Now, the authors of the study conjectured that behavior exacerbates the stock market cycle. So, for example, large market declines lead to higher risk aversion and lower allocations of stocks. These adjustments lead to further declines. Large market increases lead to lower risk aversion and higher allocations of stock, which leads to further increases. In other words, investor behavior extends the bull and bear market cycles. So what does this all mean for you? It means now that you're aware of your behavior, don't panic sell. Don't get rid of your stocks when they start dipping a little bit. In fact, do the opposite. When stocks start dipping, buy more stocks, buy more mutual funds. But do not panic and sell everything. Now, full disclosure, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice. I am just talking about the psychology behind the processes that go on when people are investing in the market. Now, if you like this video, please subscribe to this video, share this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.